Hey everyone, how are you going? Today we're going to go over my opinions on the ban list that's coming up. Bandai has said it's going to be a wide-ranging ban list. And yeah, I'm just going to go over what I think needs to be hit, what doesn't need to be hit, and just my opinions on the ban list in general as a concept. But we'll just move straight on into the leaders that in some way need to be hit. So to start off with, we have Dark Broly. Dark Broly's an insanely good deck. It's probably one of the best decks at the moment. However, with the new Gogeta support, the deck is just a bit too much. Now, people have suggested errata to leader, and I think that's the best way to go about it. It's just slightly errata the leader. So they can only include black battle cards. Or even if they just errata the Gogeta Fearless Fusion, so it can't be played in Dark Broly, then I think it's fine, because that's the problem card, not the Thwarting the Dark Empires. I honestly think it's the Fearless Fusion's the problem card, because just giving Dark Broly, we already knew it could go hard and fast. There's not much difference between a Thwarting the Dark Empires and a Champa, in all honesty. Thwarting the Dark Empires is like another bit of removal, and it's definitely a really good card, but you have to add more clunky cards into your deck, being the Gokus and the Vegetas. But the real problem card is the Fearless Fusion. Now that we have 30k Vegetas and 30k Gokus, we can consistently run Fearless Fusion. Sorry, pardon me. Now that we've got 30k Gokus and Vegetas, we can consistently run Fearless Fusion, and Dark Broly shouldn't have barrier removal. That's my opinion on that. So either make it so they can't run the Gogeta package, or make the leader so it can only play mono black battle cards, so it can't play Champa or Heartfelt play. One of those two is probably the best way to go about it. I'd probably hit the Gogeta package though, because I think that's a bit more of the dumb part. Next though, we have Mecha Freezer. This leader just needs to be banned. I don't think there's a way around it. I'm pretty sure most people in the community agree with me on this point, in which Mecha just needs to be hit. It needs to go. They tried Mecha once before. They banned that Mecha leader. They tried to reboot it to make it not as strong. It just limits future design potential. And I'm going to move my camera really quick if I can manage to do that. No, alright, well, my camera's going to stay over the Mecha Freeze later. That's okay. But they just need to ban the leader. They've already banned the previous one. This is the reboot. And they tried to make it less overtuned, but activating it, free play is insane in the deck. Insane in the game. And Mecha Freezer, it limits the future design potential, because any mono yellow extra card that gets printed, the energy costs are 2 or less, has to be Mecha Freezer proof. It just has to be Mecha Freezer proof. And because of that, it just limits future design potential of the game. And that is a very good reason to ban a card. That's why Roshi was banned last set. Mecha just needs to go. Next, however, we have Vegex. Vegex also just needs to go. Burst 5 on a black leader is too strong. Black leaders play from the drop most of the time. It's also can run the Gogeta engine now. But because black leaders play from the drop most of the time, a Burst 5 is just too much. Like, it's too consistent. The Time Agent package is perfectly fine in a Burst 3 leader. In a Burst 5 leader, it's too strong. There's two options with the leader. You either errata the leader, so it's a Burst 3 on both sides, and I think at that point, it's okay. Maybe a Burst 4 works, but just putting it down to Burst 3 is probably best. Or just banning it. Because the other thing is the Sparking 20 ability it has, it just removes a win con. So if you're ever up against a mill deck like Android 18 or Cooler Mill, you just won't overwhelm and you'll just win the game. Not so much Cooler, because Cooler can actually aggro you down, which is why it's a pretty well designed deck. But Vegex is just a bit too much. It does too many things for free. Black also has a lot of hate cards at the moment, and Vegex consistently can see them because of it being a Burst 5 and consistent black leader. Vegex just needs to go, unfortunately. Last but not least is King Piccolo. King Piccolo is not a insanely busted leader on its own. The pieces it has with it, though, is a bit busted. However, if we're gonna ban Mecha Freezer, we're gonna ban Vegito, and we're gonna hit Dark Broly, King Piccolo also needs to be hit. But with Dark Broly and King Piccolo, both of the decks need to be hit, but I don't want them to be removed from playability. For me, ban lists should do one of two things. You either ban a tier 0 deck, so it's no longer a tier 0 deck, because tier 0 decks are bad for the game. Having a deck which is the best deck, like bar none, is insane. For example, Reboot Gohan got banned in best of 1. So yeah. Sorry, I actually got something stuck in the back of my throat. Alright, let's power through. However, King Piccolo generates a lot of free advantage by having battle cards on the field. It itself does not have too much advantage generating. You get a combo 1 card per turn, which is essentially its draw. Because when you combo a card from hand, that's like you lose 1 card in hand. So if you combo a card from your life for free, that's like you're drawing cards. So that's kind of like your draw. It's a forced draw. However, piano, symbols, and unison also all draw cards. So if you have piano out, that's when your leader's activate battle becomes the +3 because you also get the battle card on the field. Yeah, so it generates a lot of advantage. I have been over King Piccolo a fair few times before, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But what to do in terms of King Piccolo, we'll move on to that. There are 3 cards that people are suggesting need to be, 2 cards people are suggesting to be changed, and then I've got my own third option on the board here. But Drum, people hate Drum, which is fair enough. A barrier blocker that next 10 is an extremely good defensive card. I can completely understand why people don't like it. However, I don't think Drum needs to be banned. I don't think Drum needs to be limited to 1, both of which will kill the deck a little bit. It just completely gets rid of its defensive potential. However, making Drum unique is a good idea. Make Drum unique, it makes the King Piccolo player have to sequence better, rather than just being able to slowly drop a bunch of barrier blockers on the field. If a deck is good, and it forces the player to sequence well, that's a well-designed deck. If a deck has to sequence well to be good, that means it is a deck with a high skill cap, and I really like those decks. So yeah, if they make Drum unique, I'm happy with that. It doesn't kill the deck. It still makes the deck as good as it always is. It's just insane. The Piccolo Unison making a once per turn is what people are suggesting, or just outright banning it. If they ban it, King Piccolo's the deck dies, so I don't think they should ban it. Ban list should not kill decks. It should just bring decks down a little bit in power, so a meta deck still stays meta. However, it's no longer like that tier 0. It can go from like 1 to 1.5. That's a good ban list. Anything more than that, it just wastes people investment and money. I will go over that a bit more a bit later though. But yeah, if you make the order once per turn, it means decks that just play like that 1 negate per turn. It does really well. Like Mecha Freezer, it will hurt still. Mecha Kabora, it will still hurt. However, it won't be as good against decks like Blue Baby, who can just stack stuff. But I think that's a reasonable rider if they do that. I won't be too mad. So if they change those 2 cards, the deck's still really good. However, it's not as good as it was. And if they bring other decks down to the same level, it makes complete sense to do that. The other one I've got on the screen is the Vegito Unison of Might. Now, this card is generally a sideboard card for red. However, myself and a couple other players have been starting to main it in King Piccolo in best of 1. And even in best of 3, it's still in my main deck. This is because the -2 in King Piccolo will win you games. You've got Drum to defend it. You have a lot of free play pressure to use. You've got a great board removal. So being able to, on turn 4, wipe your opponent's board with the -2 on the Piccolo Junior Unison, and then drop the Vegito Unison and -2 again, means your opponent's essentially locked out of the game. Now, some good and bad points about this. It means a lot of the time King Piccolo just wins off playing the Vegito Unison. I have won so many games off the Vegito Unison. So hitting this card limiting it to one or just banning it would significantly reduce the power of King Piccolo. It would put King Piccolo back to where it's kind of made to be, like the power level it was intended to be. A lot of people still aren't playing the Vegito Unison, and it still tops. I think if more people start testing the Vegito Unison, that's the way to play King Piccolo. And I personally think that's the card to hit in King Piccolo. They just want to, depending on how hard they want to reduce the power level of decks. Yeah. However, with the Zamasu counterplay coming out, Vegeta Unison may not be as good as anymore. We'll never know. Moving on though to battle cards. First one we've got is Champa. I've seen a lot of people asking for Champa to be banned. For those who don't know, when you combo with Champa from your hand, you choose the attacking card and gains double strike for the turn. Not for the turn, for the battle. Very, very good card. It wins so many games. If you're on 2 life, kind of expect to lose because you know Champa's coming. That's essentially a state of the game. And I can understand banning Champa. I'd prefer if Champa didn't stay banned because I got a Judge one and I like using it in my decks. But if they ban Champa, I can understand. However, it hits every deck the same except Vegex. Vegex and Dark Broly, or just like black aggro decks in general, use Champa more than any other deck. However, with what I suggested before, with banning Vegex and Arara and Dark Broly to only playing black battle cards, they're not playing Champa anymore. So every single deck uses every single one of the other decks uses Champa the same, and if you ban Champa, other decks that have a pseudo Champa, when you ban Champa, you have to ban Kai, of course, as well. You've got Heron's lineage, and Goku's lineage has the Pan. What else is there? Android 18 has Krillin. A lot of decks have their own double strike like card. So I think banning Champa is a bit interesting one to do if they do want to ban Champa. I personally wouldn't suggest it, but if they want to ban it, go for it. It will slow down the game in general because it'll hit every deck the same. So in that sense, I don't mind them hitting Champa because it just slows down the game a little bit. But it also means people having to play around Champa as a little bit of extra skill, in my opinion, to the game. So I don't mind them leaving it as well. Next we have Cell Xeno. The Cell Xeno Secret Rare is a successor 12 that's a free play. Now there are lots of different erratas you can do. I don't think this card should be banned. I never think a Secret Rare should be banned. You can errata Cell Xeno for it to have to cost a card, or for you to have a specific energy when you do it to actually use the successor. I agree with both of those things to do. Either make it cost 1 or make it like 4 or 3 or more energy. Probably 4 or more energy you have to successor Cell Xeno, and the card is perfectly fine in my opinion. But that's that for Cell. And then next we have the two strongest counterplays. The free play Unison counterplays. Now, I say the 2 strongest because both of these colors are now built specifically with Unisons in every single one of the decks, nearly, except for like hard aggro stuff like Majin, Vegeta, and Reaper Gohan for green. But even then, sometimes I've got it. These 2 counterplays do too much. For free, being able to counterplay and KO a 7 or less, or for free being able to bounce just anything without deflect, is a bit silly. I don't think these cards are good for the game. I think they're extremely unfair and unbalanced. They need to be checked somehow. I do understand that they have the text on it where you can't activate counterplays for the turn, so you can bait this out and then do something else. But they are still just obnoxiously strong cards. Either make them cost 1, or just get rid of them. The problem with them, however, is if you do get rid of them, do you then have to get rid of Yamcha, Merciless Barrage, and Vegeta Prideful Transformation, because those cards, while they are free counterplays, are also fine. I also don't mind them whatsoever. Yamcha, to hit the card being played, you have to play it by a skill. If you hardcast it, Yamcha can't hit it. Both of these can hit cards and being hardcast, and so can Vegeta. But Vegeta only rests a card. It rests anything, but that's fine. Anything without deflect, that's fine. It's a blocker. Vegeta's fine. Yellow's play without Unison a lot of the time because the Unisons don't really do anything in yellow. And then Yamcha's played in a lot of decks because Piccolo Jr. Unison's a great Unison. But it's not a guaranteed 4-off like both of these are. Yamcha's a 3-off, and it's just a good versatility card. It's a good free counterplay because it doesn't hit too much. It doesn't just win you games. It doesn't just stop entirely what your opponent does. It slows down your opponent a little bit. Whereas these cards just kind of waste an opponent's turn, which is a bit ridiculous. Moving on to Battle Cards Part 2, we have Swift Retaliation Cooler. It's a 3-drop counter. People just don't like it because you have stuff like Cell Xeno in Sin aggro that just on turn 3 drops this, drops Pan. Drops Cell Xeno, drops Pan on Awaken, and then swing with Cell Xeno, and with if you got 4 life, you counter, and then Swift Retaliation Cooler goes counter, and the game's kind of over. That is obnoxious. However, it does cost 3 energy. I don't know what to say. Having a counter in the game is good and healthy, because it stops stuff like a blue baby from being able to negate everything, and I very much don't like just negate everything, because there's no real skill behind it. In all honesty, there is skill behind blue baby because you got to sequence things correctly, like all decks, but to the core, just saying no to everything, there's no super skill behind it. And I don't like that. So having an out like Swift Retaliation Cooler to that is good. However, it's also bad because you have some cards that can abuse it. For example, Cell Xeno. If you make Cell Xeno cost 1 though, it can no longer abuse Swift Retaliation Cooler anywhere near as consistently. Because Swift, that's a 4-cost combo, and if they do that, that's fine. If yellow is paying 4, and specifically yellow is paying 4, to win the game, it's not too big of a deal, honestly. There's that one, so you could make an errata to it, or something where you have to have 4 or more energies, or something like that, or I don't know what else to do. You could but I think it's fine to stay. I don't think we need to hit Swift Retaliation Cooler. Moving on, Baby Hatchiac Secret Rare, like Cell Xeno, it is a free play Secret Rare. And it just ends your opponent's turn. Super Shenron was banned, Super Shenron was errated to make it to unplayability, essentially, because it gave you an extra turn. Now, while Baby Hatchiac doesn't give you an extra turn, it does, however, make it so your opponent can't win on their turn, unless it's like an Invoker deck or something like that. So, Baby Hatchiac is interesting. It's if you make it cost 1 in blue, then you're at the problem where it's kind of that defeats the purpose. The purpose of it is to be able to tap out and then play this, discard a card from hand. You get a 40k beater, and your opponent doesn't get to attack for the turn. I think using Baby Hatchiac correctly is extremely high skilled card. Pete, one of my friends, uses Baby Hatchiac the best I've ever seen on any other player. He doesn't just shotgun it. He will let you get him down to 1 life before he plays Baby Hatchiac. Consistently, he is more than happy to be on 1 life before he plays Baby Hatch, because Baby Hatch is a turn ender, guaranteed. So if people overextend, get you down to 1 life, and then trying to overextend and get rid of all their options, just drop Baby Hatch and he'll win the next turn. But if you Baby Hatchiac the very first attack, because you know they're going to do a lot that turn, if you Baby Hatchiac the first attack, they don't have to get rid of any resources and can kill you the following turn. So it's very, definitely a skill-based card, but I think it's fine in a sense. I think blue baby just needs to be hit more so than Baby Hatchiac, in my opinion, for that one. And the last battle card we're going to talk about is Heartfelt Plea. Heartfelt Plea is a fine card outside of it being abused in certain decks. So Heartfelt Plea just needs a simple errata, and I think a lot of people have been calling for this. Just needs to be played in a red or yellow leader deck. So blue yellow, like, doesn't have to be mono red, doesn't have to be mono yellow. Just has to be part of the leader's color. Just has to be red or yellow. This just allows for it to be future proofed. So red battle cards can be splashed in other decks without just Heartfelt Plea being like, yep, cool, game over. So happy for that errata to come down. Moving on to our extra cards that need to be touched up. Catastrophic Blow. Invoker in general is a bit obnoxious. Now, I'm not saying that Invoker is a deck that's tier 0 and needs to be hit, but Invoker by design gatekeeps the format in which other slow decks can't play. If you don't have a specific out to Catastrophic Blow, which is God Sealing Technique or anything like that, you can't play because Invoker will kill you on 5. And so if you're not a hard aggro deck, a lot of times even hard aggro decks Invoker can survive against. But if you're not an aggro deck, Invoker's going to kill you. That's about that. So limiting something like Cat Blows to 2 or Cat Blow to 1 means Invoker has to kill you over a couple of turns instead of just one. And they have Rival Seeker to continuously get Cat Blow back, so it's not as bad. But if you limit Cat Blow to 1, it means they have to keep their Cat Blow in hand when they see it. It does, however, inherently remove a lot of consistency and a lot of draw power from Invoker, so maybe limiting it to 2 is better. But limiting Cat Blow so it's not a 4 of in the deck just makes Invoker play a little slower, and maybe if you do hit Invoker, if you do hit Cat Blow, give him maybe a little bit of extra early defense in this next set. So hard aggro doesn't just have an auto loss to hard aggro anymore. A skillful player can still play around it, but it doesn't just have an auto win against slow decks. That's what I think it needs to happen with Cat Blows and Invokers. Moving on, Sensu Bean. I don't know what to say with Sensu Bean. Sensu Bean is a card that's been called to be hit for a while. However, it's not really doing anything in the current meta game. It's being abused a little bit in Mecha Freezer. Outside of that, it doesn't really do anything. And if we hit Mecha Freezer, like I think Mecha Freezer needs to be hit, it's fine. The card's fine. Keep it in the format. It's been here since set 1. It just means it's just a good card. I don't think it breaks anything. Unless it breaks anything, it doesn't need to be hit, honestly. Dawn Potential Unleashed does not need to be hit. Green sucks. And they're not going to hit Dormant either. Let's just put it out there. Dormant's not going to be hit no matter how much you ask for Dormant to be hit, no matter what happens in the next couple months. Dormant's not going to be hit on the July 17th ban list. That was guaranteed when they reprinted it and made it a winner card. That's all I'm going to say about Dormant. I don't want to go into it too much because I just know it's not going to be hit because it just got 2 reprints. And finally, Planet Tuffle. Planet Tuffle sucks. I don't like this card. Reducing the extra... This allows Blue Baby to be a deck, and because Blue Baby is a deck, it's just not a fun deck to play against. It limits the future design of Blue. Blue just can't... You can't print any good Blue cards that aren't leader locked. And one of the great things about this game was when I first started that you could mess around with different cards and different leaders. But what's happening is that they're trying to print better and better cards, but they have to leader lock everything because they've just limited their own potential design with cards like Planet Tuffle and Blue Baby. I think that this card shouldn't exist. I don't think Blue Baby as a deck should exist. A deck full of counters is not an enjoyable experience to play against. I just don't like it. I think this card needs to go. I know Blue Baby's doing really well in best of 1. It can be beaten best of 3, but I just don't think a deck full of a negate should ever exist. That's just my honest opinion on it. I've played Hachiyak. I enjoy Hachiyak. However, it's not the same as Blue Baby that just gets to negate everything. Yeah, Blue Baby just shouldn't exist. I'm just going to keep reiterating that. But anyway, that's all the cards I have to talk about. Let me go back to the title page super quick so I can just talk about my opinion on the Banhammer in general. Now, I come from a competitive Pokemon background, so I played the Pokemon trading card game relatively competitively. I have seen more success in Dragon Ball, though, my short time in it. But I don't like ban lists. Now, ban lists are perfectly fine to get rid of tier 0 decks or cards that are breaking the format. That's perfectly fine. However, if stuff gets hit on ban lists that isn't breaking the format, for example, or... Yeah, we'll talk about Master Roshi, right? Master Roshi was a card that eventually had to go. Master Roshi, the one that got a green extra card from your discard pile and put it back in your hand. Master Roshi eventually had to go. It didn't have to go at the time it did, and what I like about Pokemon is I know a year in advance what cards are gonna leave the format. Right? That's what happens with the rotation. I know a year in advance what cards are gonna leave the format. So if I'm a player coming in, I can relatively easily just pick up new cards and play with new cards rather than playing with old cards. So I don't lose out. And there's always going to be a power creep in any card game you play. That's how it keeps getting players to play the game. Now, when power creep happens, you naturally get the new decks anyway. So with Pokemon rotation, the only things that we really lose each year in rotation is like maybe 1 or 2 decks, but there's like 10 decks in a format anyway. And some just consistency cards. And when that happens, you don't lose too much money randomly from just your cards being removed from the game, and you don't lose too much that you're not expecting to lose. However, with the ban list, if you're a player who doesn't have too much money, and there are a lot of players in the game that don't have much money. You have competitive players that just buy every deck, but you also have casual, non-competitive players, and that's where Bandai makes most of their money from. It's not us competitive players who are going around and playing in big tournaments and doing well. It's the casual players that play once or twice a week at the local game store, that play with their family. They buy a box of set. They build one deck. They enjoy that one deck. That's the player. That's what makes Bandai most of the money, and that they are the people I'm worried about in terms of ban lists. Now, when a ban list happens, it bans cards, right? Now, I picked up King Piccolo at the start of set 12 for a fun deck. Now, if I was just a casual player, I would have only played King Piccolo, and I would have been slowly improving my King Piccolo deck. Now, if that gets banned, I'm out of a lot of money. I play one deck, I don't want to put too much money into this game. Then they ban the one deck I have without any warning. What am I going to do? I don't keep up with the competitive scene. I just know it's a good deck. And they ban it, so it's no longer playable. The deck's gone. I just don't think ban lists are a good thing for the game unless it's getting rid of a tier 0 card or a tier 0 deck, because that is definitely not a good thing to do. However, what they should do is maybe every 6 months or once a year, there is a rotation type ban list where we are given 3 months notice of cards leaving the format. Now, Bandai can do this extremely easily. They give us 3 months notice, cards leaving the format, and to do this, people have time. People are still going to buy the cards because there are still lots of competitive play between now and that time. And Bandai gets to control the format the way they like without just banning cards outright. And people don't lose so much money. People get noticed. People get to build the decks towards it. However, when a ban list hits, it's boom. People have like 2 weeks to build new decks for the next regionals. It's relatively ridiculous. I don't like the idea of ban lists unless it's to break tier 0 decks. If they want to remove cards that are future proofing, they need to give us 3 months notice. Now, I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion. However, this is an opinion I stick to very solidly. And it's one of those things, put it up on the screen, change my mind. I don't think ban lists are a good idea. Anyway, thank you for listening to me rant about cards that need to be banned. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to catch you guys all next time, and I hope to have another video out in the next couple of days. I'm also going to try build some decks and get you some deck lists. Every you guys is Friday, my Saturday night, so you're probably Saturday morning. Your Saturday morning. Well, America's Saturday morning, Australia's Saturday night. Of decks from the new cards that Bandai reveal each week, because we've got that for the next 4 weeks. So I'll try to get you a video on Saturday night for the first league they reveal, and a video on Sunday night for the next video after that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys all next time. Have a good one.